Amram, would you mind closing that door, please? Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Thank you very much. I'm Mayor Patrick Terrian for the RM of Springfield. This is the RM of Springfield meeting agenda calling to order at exactly 6 p.m. on March the 17th of 2026. All of council is present. I'll introduce them. To the right in descending order is Deputy Mayor Repeal, Councillors Kaczynski, Miller, and Warren. Then I'll go to land acknowledgement there. The RM of Springfield acknowledges that we are gathered on ancestral lands, Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, Dene's people, and on the national homeland of the Red River Métis. If we can go to the approval of the agenda, can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Warren and Fuel. Any additions for that? Councillor Miller?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and happy St. Patrick's Day to all members of our community. I would like to add under number 6, can be 6.1 or 6.2, I guess, an unscheduled delegation of Mr. Edwin Giesbrecht, please.
Okay.
He had made a formal application to do this on Friday. It seemed to meet all the criteria under the procedures bylaw, so I think it's absolutely pertinent that we add that to this particular agenda. Thank you.
Okay, just for clarity, the material was sent in on Monday? Okay. What is the resolution? What's the wording you got there?
I think the CEO has it, but I think it is to add Mr. Edwin Giesbrecht as an unscheduled delegation under 6.2 this evening.
Okay, if we want to discuss it, I'll open it up for council. Who would be first?
And that was second.
Yeah, I figured that. Anybody want to discuss that? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, for discussion, the CAO sent out that Mr. Giesbrecht was not denied the delegation. It was that to give more time because of all the attachments that were provided, which were 3 documents, one 7 pages, one 24 pages, and the other one 14 pages for administration to review. And then also recommended that he would sit down with our financial officer to review the documentation and then come back to the public hearing at the for the budget. Now, having said that, that recommendation, I believe he wasn't happy with at the time and pursued that he still be heard tonight. So under these circumstances, I will agree that I would allow him to speak for 10 minutes, but the information that he's submitted at this time, I would not recommend until administration had a chance to review everything, and he can come back and represent that then. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Miller?
I think Mr. Giesbrecht has an extensive amount of good information, what I saw, and that he would not be able to present it all tonight, but to, in due course, give him the 10 minutes, and then if he wishes to meet with administration and the finance manager and so forth, that would also probably fit into his caliber.
Okay.
And
no.
Well, I mean, they would be helpful, I think, to council and maybe to the public, but you can speak to that if you're allowed to speak.
Anybody else?
Yep.
Sure.
I would echo what Councillor Fuel has said, as well as Councillor Miller, to allow Mr. Giesbrecht to do his delegation. I would encourage that the documents that Mr. Giesbrecht has submitted, even though like he has quoted on all of his documents where his information comes from, I think it would be ideal that the finance department looks at it first before it is publicized, just to concur that this is the same information. We don't want the public to have one information and the RM is giving the other information, and it's no different than looking at a zoning bylaw, your building permit, or your building, the building, whatever. It's all open to interpretation by the person.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Giesbrecht.
No more
Please,
disruptions.
please don't interrupt. It's all open to interpretation, and if you're not used to reading a financial plan, you have questions automatically for the finance department. So I would encourage that the finance department read over and just concur with Mr. Giesbrecht that everything is the same. So Mr. Giesbrecht, I would say that if council approves that he can have his 10-minute delegation to speak what he wants to speak about, he can, but those documents are not publicized until the finance department looks at it. And Mr. Giesbrecht can concur with the finance department. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kaczynski.
Thank you. I would say that let's hear Mr. Giesbrecht first before we make any comments or discussion. We even don't know what he want to present to us. We know what documents are there. Everybody can review and let him speak. And then we're going to maybe have discussion after he speaks, like if we agree with it and who's going to review and how it's going to be done. Because, you know, we kind of prematurely making the decision. We even don't know what he want to do with that information, what he want to present it to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll summarize it there. There's nothing premature about this. Mr. Giesbrecht has put a lot of work into this. There's no doubt about that. It's not done over the weekend. I can guarantee you that. This is something that could have been sent to us on Friday easily for us to look at over the weekend. There's no ambiguity with regards to that. We're talking 47, I think, or 48 pages here to dissect, and numerous questions which are broad and open-ended questions which require a huge amount of time and effort to answer there. This is not an area that we should be dwelling on there. This stuff is for an accountant or an economist there, and Mr. Giesbrecht is neither one of those, and nobody on the council is that. The only one that's you know, impeccably accredited is our CFO and our CEO. You know, that's to post this material that is not factual, even though it was taken from audits. There is considerable narrative or inferences. Frankly, we need to have our CFO review. I looked at it for you know, at least an hour there, and I've got huge amount of questions on there that with the misinformation, the linking a narrative, and so on like that. So there's already lots of problems in it that I saw, and that's one category. Mr. Giesbrecht can sit down with our CFO, who is highly trained in the accounting field, and this is an option that was presented to him. He essentially turned that down. He turned down 2 other dates there, and those dates are still open there. So the material, it makes no point for us to act like a social media channel here for adding it to our agenda. That's not what agendas are for. You can't talk for 10 minutes and then put 47 pages of material on there. A delegation is simply for that, just to tell us what the delegation is, what you're trying to explain. But 48 pages and 3 different PDFs is huge. It's like drinking from a fire hose. So this was sent to us, like I say, on the deadline on Monday. Mr. Giesbrecht says that it was on Sunday, but most of the emails that we received are on Monday and on Tuesday today from various sources. I won't name any. It would have been nice to have this over on the weekend, so obviously a very detailed charts, graphs, and questions, comments throughout. But is it accurate? It is misleading, confusing to the public at the time of our budget discussions, and this isn't a time now to introduce misinformation. So it's my opinion there, in short, that this is a document that requires far more work to look at. Then if we could read the resolution, we can put it to a vote.
Be it resolved that Edwin Giesbrecht be added as a non-scheduled delegation under 6.1 delegations.
Yeah, first I'll pose the question for those in support with a show of hands. That'll be Councillors Warren, Miller, Kaczynski, and Fuel. Those opposed? That'll be Mayor Therrien. So passed. Just for clarification, that won't include the agenda items? Like
I have not attached anything, no.
The documents? Okay. All right, then at this point here, if I can get a show of hands, those in support of the agenda with adding 6.2, Mr. Giesbrecht. That is unanimous and so carried. We'll get to adoption of the minutes, so please. Mover and a seconder, please. Therrien and Warren. Any questions, comments, additions to that? And I see none. I'll pose the question. Those in support? That is unanimous, so carried. And then we'll go to the first delegation there at exactly 6:11. That'll be Janet Nylen.
My preemptive cough candy. My name is Janet Nylen. I live in Oak Bank. I feel it is important to make this delegation, even though I often feel that the time and effort we as residents put into our presentations are often not appreciated by council. In my time as a CAO, the year-end financial statement was an instrumental part of the next year's budget. It had to be approved by council and submitted to the minister by the 15th of March. The 2.5 months from the end of the year was felt to be sufficient time to get all the prior year's invoices in, payments made in that period, and any necessary journal entries done. Once it was approved by council, the previous year's numbers were the amounts to be put into the budget or the financial plan for the current year. Should something have to be changed, it would be explained to council and they would have to pass a resolution to amend the year-end statement subsequently, and it would be sent, the amendment would be sent to the minister. This process provided a clear paper trail of financial affairs of the municipality for the public and for council. This does not seem to be the case in Springfield for the last few years, at least. I've taken the time to review the amounts laid out in the financial plan, and there are a number of discrepancies with the ones showing in the December 31st, 2025 year-end financial statement that was adopted, or that is on your agenda tonight. Before I get into them, I would like to walk you through what occurred last year and hope that council will reconsider the process being followed and change it for this year. On April 22nd, 2025, Council held a financial plan hearing. A paper copy of the draft 2025 financial plan was made available to the public. The Manager of Finance did a PowerPoint presentation. Minutes of the hearing made no mention of changing the amounts presented, and on April 29th, Council passed a resolution to adopt the 2025 financial plan, but again, no mention of making any changes to the version presented on April 22nd was noted. On May 20th, Council gave first reading to bylaw number 2507, referring to it as the taxation bylaw. The financial plan is Schedule A to the bylaw. Most people, perhaps even Council, would think that the financial plan that was revealed at the public hearing would be the same as the one attached to bylaw number 2507. This is not so, and I counted at least 10 changes. Some were minor, but the fact remains that the paper trail is not complete. Who, when, and under what authority were the changes made is not known. My next point is about nominal surplus. Again, back in the time when I was a CAO, nominal surplus was best described as the accumulated surpluses, less any deficits that occurred year to year. In business, it would be considered as net earnings or profit or loss. And I realized since PSAB, this is not so black and white. Where nominal surplus appears is on the balance sheet of the monthly financial statement and in the audited statement. Tonight, Council is looking at the December 31st, 2025 year-end statement, and it can be found on FR 001, page 1 at the bottom. And at the bottom of the page, you will note nominal surplus. And the first line below it reads, balance at the beginning of the year, 44,179,328. My concern is that at the end of the December 2024, that same line shows 41,493,178. That's a difference of 2,686,150, which has not been explained or approved by Council in any way that I know of. In fact, the reported surplus in December 31st, 2024 financial statement was $962,757, which turned out to be incorrect. And after the 2024 audit, Springfield actually incurred a deficit of $935,143. That amount should be shown in 2025 when the information became available, but it shouldn't change amounts that had already been approved by Council previously, except by another resolution, of course. Council has approved that deficit, and it was to be recovered in 2025. That amount is shown on the 2025 budget, but in the monthly financial statements, I think it's added under legislative or to the legislative account under government services found on FR 5, page 1. Why, I'm not sure. It could be shown similar to the way allowance for tax assets appears on FOR 05, page 3. Can it be explained where the offsetting entry of 962,757 is reported in the double bookkeeping entry system that municipalities use? I'll leave that question until later. Is it an adjustment to the nominal surplus amount shown on FR01? If so, it would be more clear if it was a separate line entry. Before you ask me to keep focus on the 2025 year-end statement, I will point out it shows, excuse me, a surplus of $1,013,350. Yet you are taking $1,095,858 as a transfer from nominal surplus, found on page 4, or FR4, page 1. Can this be explained? To me, this is an in and out of the same fund. Also, there are a number of surplus transfers into reserves found on FR5, page 3, that were not budgeted for and are not as a result of the development fees. Excess fees from development revenue show on page FR4, page 1, as $1,353,433. And this may be why some transfers to reserves tied to development exceed the revenue that is reported as, but that excess is $228,429. Exceeding budget amounts are to the reserves, general reserve, $932,485. Public vehicle reserve, $500,000. Recreation maintenance reserve, $250,000 for a total of $1,682,485. If you include the surplus for the development fees of $228,000, it's $1,900,000. And that's money that is in excess of what was budgeted for. Where's the authority to transfer funds over the budgeted amounts into these reserves? I can't find a resolution of council. Is there one? Council used to pass resolutions that included the rationale, but now it seems that it is administration that decides. Still on reserves in revenue on page FR4, page 1, it shows that the budgeted transfers from reserves are under by $1,143,093. This would likely be a result of not doing all the capital projects in 2025. So the effective the affected reserve funds would not be further depleted. To me, this, along with the operating surplus, indicates there's about $3 million that have been raised as taxes last year that has not been spent. Before I run out of time, I'd like to mention on page FR08, page 1, the utility operating fund. A few questions. Can it be explained why the water supply and sewage collection administration is approximately $270,000 over budget, yet the purification treatment is under budget by $111,109 or $91. Such swings in amounts will be misleading down the road if they're not recorded clearly and appropriately. Note too that the appropriation to the utility replacement reserve also exceeds budget by $221,617. This could mean overcharging customers to enhance the reserve fund for future upgrades. Other than being not being authorized by a resolution of council, this could have some benefit to the utility's future. The 2025 year-end financial statement is an important document and shouldn't just be rubber stamped at this meeting. It contains important information that could seriously seriously considered as it reflects the 2026 budget. Consider with the operating surplus and the excess transfers into reserves funds, $3 million were over budgeted for last year. The spreadsheet presented just last week at the information meeting turns out to have been correct amounts, and it too should be redone based on actual approved amounts. Summary: financial accountability and fiscal responsibility now more than ever is essential in our homes, in our jobs, and in our municipality. My request tonight is that you do not adopt this financial report as presented and have it adjusted to reduce the surplus. In regards to the excess transfers to reserve funds, at the very least, council should pass a resolution and authorize the expenditures properly. The deadline for adopting the year-end has already passed, so administration can advise the minister that it will be coming shortly, because the numbers in the year-end are in a way a report card of last year, but also fundamental to this year's budget. Any questions?
No. Thank you. I would suggest that we get all the answers. You can, Mrs. Nylen, can you present that to the administration?
Yep.
Your presentation, and we could get all the answers to it before we gonna pass it on, this document. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
We're going to vote on it tonight, so unless somebody feel to answer it now. I'm not even sure what the questions are. But I'm gonna try to.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't get that information ahead of time like we would have liked to, so we could have addressed some of those questions ahead of time. Obviously, the statement is on the agenda later at 10.4, and the CFO is here. So we can have that discussion with him during that discussion, and then council can decide at that time.
Not sure. No.
Thank you, Mayor. I thank you for your presentation, and it comes to light I'm a procedural hog in the sense that I think protocol is explicit to us, and we need to follow the regulations and the formalities of adopting and transferring funds and accumulated surpluses and everything you spoke to tonight. So I would, at very least, probably abstain from any vote. But I think if our finance manager can come up to us and explain exactly what is in your material, and or our CEO can say, are we meeting the criteria of who is making these transfers? Is a resolution absolutely required or not required, or can administration just carte blanche transfer funds amongst accounts? That's something that would be helpful not only for our council, but probably future councils. I'm not sure the answer myself personally, so I thank you for raising those kinds of points. And I think in your capacity as CEO before, you must have had protocols where you've seen resolutions that were entrenched and or part of a council deliberations to have those happen. So I think your eye and your scrutiny, is that where it's coming from?
I probably would have done that years ago, but it's been done in Springfield up until recently. And there would usually be a resolution in December that recognized that some of the projects hadn't been done. And so instead of spending the money, you put it into reserve so it could be used the following year for that same project. But those resolutions haven't been occurring.
And I don't think that there's any undue intention or wrongful will to do it. I think either we've maybe misstepped or maybe we need to do it, but let's do it properly. That's all I'm asking, is to safeguard the citizens, to safeguard our council, and to do it properly, visibly, accountably, and transparently. That's what's critical in this whole procedure.
And I guess if I could end with one point, is that when council is budgeting, they've been looking at the budgeted previous year's numbers, and there's quite a big swing in different areas. And you should have explanations for those swings, because maybe there's a one-off that could be, there's rationale behind it, or maybe you've been over budgeting for a number of years. So my recommendation is that you also look at the actual numbers.
Thank you. Then we can go to Mr. Giesbrecht, 10 minutes.
I'll stand at the podium as long as my spine will allow. I have to sit down. You will appreciate that. But appreciate not having accommodations for disability.
Okay, Mr. Giesbrecht.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of council. My name is Edwin Giesbrecht of Springfield. For clarity, Mr. Chair, this is a structured overview of publicly available financial information. I will not be taking questions or engaging in debate this evening. Over the past decade, Springfield maintained audited financial stability from 2015 through 2024, showing consistent surpluses, increasing liquidity, and manageable debt. These numbers demonstrate that historically, the municipality had strong financial foundations. Today, I will present how the 2025 unaudited statements and the 2026 draft budget allocations diverge from this stability, and what that could mean for services, reserves, and property taxes going forward. As a reminder, all graphs illustrating these trends are posted on the agenda site, or were to have been posted for public and council reference. I will refer to them as we go through each section. Historical context, 2015 to 2022, from 2015 Through 2021, revenues and expenditures tracked closely, enabling Springfield to build reserves, maintain surpluses, and manage debt responsibly. In 2022, expenditures began to outpace revenue, signaling the first indications of emerging fiscal pressures. While balances remain positive, this year marks a turning point, showing that future stability is less certain under current projections and council decisions. Graphs to reference online. Municipal spending trend shows stable growth up to 2022 and the 2022 split. Reserve funds illustrate reserves accumulation over the decade. 2. 2024 audited results, stability at that time. By 2024, audited figures showed accumulated surpluses of 116 million, liquidity, cash and temporary investments, 52 million, long-term debt, 6.6 million. Graphs online that should be there for the public today. Debt, borrowing, property taxes versus municipal services. These figures confirm Springfield had maintained strong financial stability, providing a baseline for comparing 2025 to 2026 projections. 2025 unaudited statements, emerging pressures. Revenue, 47.9 million. Expenditures, 44.4 million. Reserve use, 12.5 million for operations and capital. Reference online. Municipal revenue versus expenses shows the divergence from the past trend and emerging pressures. Implication, historical buffer is being drawn down faster, potentially affecting service levels and reserve sustainability. Number 4, 2026 draft budget, the wish list, ambitious projections. Draft 2026 allocations include general reserves, vehicle and equipment reserve, water capital levy reserve, total projected expenditures, 49.9 million. Graphs online for the general public to reference here, should have been today. Municipal cash growth, projected reserve declines if allocations proceed, property taxes versus municipal services, projected rising demands versus revenue. These visuals demonstrate how 2025-2026 projections diverge from the decade-long trend, highlighting emerging pressures. Number 5, key observations and trends, comparison table, reference table online. 2022, 2024, 2025, 2026 metrics. Surplus growth slowed, reserves projected to decline sharply, total expenditures increased beyond historical norms, recreation and senior programs projected spending exceeded past audited levels. Note, 2025 to 26 columns highlighted in pale yellow, which makes it very easy to see online today, to indicate emerging pressures. Number 6, potential tax and risk implications. Residents and council should be aware of 6 key risks, all reflected in the posted graphs and tables. 1, capital project overrun. Costs could exceed projections, straining reserves. 2, inflation impacts. Rising material, labor, and operational costs could increase expenditures. 3, provincial assessment uncertainty. Highest and best use assessments may increase property taxes unpredictably. 4, back-end tax shifts. Reductions or elimination of benefits or exemptions could increase resident tax burden. 5, cumulative effect. Combined with project spending, these factors could materially affect finances and taxes. 6, capital project scale. If projects proceed at current size, reserves may be depleted and taxes could rise unless resized or reprioritized. These risks, visible in all the graphs and table posted online, show that while Springfield had strong financial foundations historically, future stability is less certain. 7, resident takeaway. Springfield finances through 2022 and audited 2024 demonstrated strength and stability. The 2025 unaudited statements and 26 draft allocations show emerging pressures that could affect reserves, services, and taxes. Residents now have transparent documentation, reinforced by the posted graphs and table, providing the opportunity for oversight and discussion before the 2026 budget readings. By referencing these visuals online here today for all the public to see, the community can verify trends and implications directly, ensuring transparency and accountability. This information is now part of the public record, and I trust it will assist both council and residents in evaluating the decisions ahead. How many minutes do I have left, Chair?
3 minutes? 3 minutes.
I also take exception here to some comments that my graphs and presentations and opinions were a matter of misinformation. And being characterized as such, what I would refer to that as actually a misinformation of verbiage. That's exactly what it is. So I don't appreciate that. I don't think the public appreciates that. And actually, there's been a subversion of gatekeeping here on the PDFs that should have been posted. It was all based on the audited statements. Those statements, the majority of them created, signed off by our CAO. So what is the problem? Those statements were her statements. She created it. So what is the problem? There shouldn't be a problem. And this is an ongoing problem in our council. Come fall, come October of this year, I hope this all changes, all of it. And the misinformation stops, the gatekeeping stops, and the discrimination against delegations and what I perceive as intimidation stops. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giesbrecht.
Thank you, Mr. Giesbrecht. Now we can carry on.
I didn't take any questions at the outset. So there are no questions, and I'm not here to debate with you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Whereabouts are we here? Okay, we can go to 7.1, please. That's repeal bylaw 1711. That's a heritage reserve bylaw, first reading. Mover, seconder, please. Fuel and Warren.
Be it resolved that first reading be given to bylaw number 2605, being a bylaw of the RM of Springfield, to repeal municipal bylaw number 1711, being a bylaw to establish a heritage reserve fund.
Thank you. Any questions with regards to 7.1 from council? I see none. Then if I can pose the first question, those in support, show of hands. That is unanimous, so carried. Then we go to 7.2, please. That's bylaw 2605, repeal of bylaw 1711, heritage reserve bylaw. If I can get a mover or seconder, please.
I think that's bylaw 2515, heritage aggregate reserve bylaw,
yeah,
first reading.
Yeah, 2515, sorry. Tarion and Warren.
Be resolved that first reading be given to bylaw number 25-15, being a bylaw of the RM of Springfield, to establish a heritage aggregate reserve fund.
Any questions from council with regards to 7.2, 2515? Councillor Kaczynski.
Thank you. So if we create this new bylaw, who's going to be in charge of this new bylaw? It's going to be council or administration?
So administration would bring recommendations forward to council, and council would make the final decision on how the funds are used.
Can we put that in this bylaw, that it's going to be to council to make any changes? And
yeah, so So I think it talks about that surplus funds are placed into the reserve fund by resolution of council. So any expenses would come as a report to council and have to be approved by resolution.
Yes, but so can we put that wording into the bylaw, please?
I think that's in there, isn't it already?
Yeah, I can make some draft recommendations for second reading and bring that forward.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or amendments? I see none. Then if I can show of hands, first posing the question, those in support of bylaw 2515. That is unanimous, so carried. Then if we can go to bylaw 2604, and that'll be 7.3 on our agenda there. If I get a mover or a seconder, please. Miller and Fuel.
Be it resolved that first reading be given to bylaw number 2604, being a bylaw of the RM of Springfield, whereas under section 93.2 of the Municipal Act, a municipality must pass a bylaw prescribing certain matters concerning campaign expenses and contributions in connection with municipal elections.
And that shows the amounts, the amendments on there.
Yeah, so the only changes proposed are the limit to campaign expenses. For head of council, it increased from 12,000 to 15,000, and for councillor from 6,000 to 10,000.
Okay. I had some comments with regards to that. It's, in my opinion, it's not fair for the average person to try to compete with those who have deeper pockets, i.e. more money, and are backed, are able to get the backing from some people there for that give the money to them there. I think it's the average Joe should have the fair playing field if they're willing to work hard for their municipality, whatever election that might be, local, provincial, or federal. I think the average person is being put to the backside there when it comes to money there. And let's face it, persons that have the money have a lot of signs and a lot of literature that's able to be put out there. It's to me, it's a David versus Goliath in campaigns. Those persons who have the, able to do the fundraisers and all that, then those people have the money, or will have the money for all that. But the person who's just going there and is trying to work a job and trying to get out there and do knocking on doors, when I was running, that's what I did. That was probably 3/4 of the time that I spent was knocking on doors. I didn't have the money for the signs, that I could not compete against some of them that were running. So it's in my opinion that it should be actually reduced to allow a fairer playing field. And I know that might be somewhat controversial there, but I'm just saying costs are going up. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely. So signs, I don't know what they cost now, but I suspect they've gone up considerable in the last almost 4 years since we campaigned. So it's it's age. It's an income discrimination wave that I'm looking at with regards to this. So I'm very much opposed to increasing it there and having a level playing field, or as best a level playing field as the average person can afford. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate what you're saying. The dynamics of campaigning has radically changed over the last 4 years. I think you'll see, because it is very public and it's transparent, that I spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000. I could have went to 6,000, but I use social media, and even more so now, you can continue to use social media. I garnered 72% of the vote, not because I spent the maximum contribution allowable, but rather because I use the ability of, as you said, going door to door and So I didn't buy the campaign. And I do know in federal and provincial politics, it's often those who have the bigger pot and kitty who can have influence with their signs and all the rest of it. But this isn't excessive, I don't think, at $15,000 and $10,000. You know that gas has gone up, I don't know, 20, 30% in the last month alone, and signs and everything else is going to echo that. But I just see it as giving those who have a strong campaign, if they want to use that money, that they have the ability to use that money. Again, if it was excessive, I would absolutely be against it, because I think the grassroots individual should absolutely have a chance to run. And I'm always encouraged when there's more than one candidate. I can't stand when anybody is acclaimed. I think people should be challenged in every position. I hope I'm challenged going forward. I think it's important to bring the issues forward. Not only that, but it brings a diversity of ideas, and it also holds the candidates accountable. So I'm okay with the proposal here.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Any other comments? I think Andy had his hand up first. Go ahead, Andy.
Thank you. The numbers you can arise when you start your campaign and you see who opponent you have to deal with when you start campaigning. So if you see you have strong opponent, I guess you have to spend more money to deal with that. Or like, for my instance, when I was campaigning, I knew who I was going against it, and I knew what I had to do. So I was new councillor, putting in the position that I have to do at most from myself to gain this position on the council. So, Mr. Mayor, you suggested that you want a level playing field, but you're never coming up with any numbers. Can you please specify what numbers will you say that it would be, even campaign for everybody, and how you would do that?
I would keep it just at the amounts that's on there now. And I would actually even lower it there, because I find that's quite expensive for the average person there. Sorry, I just lost my screen there. Yeah, 12,000 for mayor's position, and now it increased to 15,000, and for a councillor it's from 6 to 10. So it's actually, only 3,000 increase for the mayor and 4 for the councillor, which isn't what my thing is there. I'm saying 12,000 for the mayor. I didn't come anywhere close to that, and I think Councillor Miller says he wasn't close to the 6,000. So I'm not sure what other councillors had spent, but it's all public knowledge in any case there. But I don't know those numbers. But I'm just saying, 12,000 I think is huge. And I don't know what the other candidates were 4 years ago that were campaigning against me there. But I suspect one person that was running against me had more money to put around there, and I've just got a problem with the amount of money. The money is what's going to stop people from campaigning. You could spend $1. I understand that. It can go anywhere from $1 to 12,000. The point is that it should be open to anybody that can put in a fair race. But if he hasn't got the money, or she doesn't have the money for a large amount of signs and or a campaign literature, there, yeah, I understand door to door. That's what helped me. I went to almost 2,000 houses there, and it was a real I went from door to door. But what I'm saying is that it's the deep pockets there, and I said David versus Goliath. I'm just thinking it should be a more equitable playing field. So keeping at 12,000 is what I would say, and I think that's actually too much. But increasing it to 15 and to 10, I find is not addressing those disparities.
So can you please put the numbers? What would you like there?
I did. It's 12,000 and 6,000, what they were before.
Oh, you want to remain the way it is?
Yeah, I would like it less, to be honest with you there. But I'm just saying I'm against increasing it.
All the prices going up with the inflation. So as Councillor Fuel suggested in last discussion on this issue, and let's see the other councillor what they have to offer, and maybe we come to consensus and we see how gonna progress.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I was just, again, when I submitted those numbers, I did some research to other RMs and what they were doing. Again, I come back to the cost of signs, cost of fuel, and I've gone door to door to everybody, and I also spent money, so it's all part of it. And I, again, just support this because, again, it's just makes sense at this time of the way inflation is and what the costs are going to be. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Warren?
Sure. Like we all said before, it shouldn't matter about your sign. Yeah, you need to go door to door. The gas is expensive. Literature is expensive. Going and getting photocopies of paper. Councillor Miller, you're social media buff. You're always on social media. I'm glad you have a good repertoire with social media. I do not. So kudos that you can use social media, and I'm sure other candidates out there would do social media, except I'm not sure if Facebook and all that will allow campaigning for politics technically on their websites or their platforms, but that's besides the point. I do agree with raising it. You don't have to spend all the money. It is about being frugal with your money and understanding where it needs to go in your campaign. Springfield is a very large municipality with residents, especially in the rural section, just spread out all over. That needs to be accounted for. I know that in previous elections, there was larger signs and put in certain locations for people to see it. Sometimes people just want to see a small sign, when they get their mail, but at the end of the day, if you're going to spend this amount of money and do a lot of your signage and your literature, we also have to be mindful that we have to clean up after ourselves. You can't just leave your sign and whatnot. So when it comes to the money aspect, I'm okay with the 10 and the 15. I know all the costs are going up. Who knows what a printer nowadays is, right? Like if you're going to Staples or if you're going and you're going to mail this out, if you're doing a pamphlet and you want to mail it, who knows what Canada Post is charging? If Canada Post, I don't know, have they settled? Are we going to get our mail where we need to go? Like these are things that are still out there that are quiet, nobody hears about. So making sure that you have that money set forward, you don't have to use it all, but I probably will not, if I would choose to run, I probably wouldn't use the 10 or 15,000. To me, that sounds like a ridiculous amount, but other people may choose that that's what they need to do based on their location of their ward and their people that they're trying to connect with. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Kaczynski, and then I'll sum it up and then we can vote.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe we make equal, like if we increase 3,000 for the mayor, then we increase same amount, 3,000 for the councillor position. So we're gonna 9,000, so 3,000 each group. So there'll be no favoritism for the councillor over the mayor.
I understand what you're saying there, Councillor. There, I'm just my point is that I understand all the rationales that have been put forward, and I totally agree. And I think the one that Deputy Mayor had mentioned, the costs are going up, yes, but when you're going towards $12,000, that's a huge amount of money. There, it's if it was before this there, so I respect what you're saying, Andy, but I don't think it's the money, the numbers that I'm saying here. I think 12,000 is good enough there. I think 6,000 is good enough. Do I think it's even high? Yes, I do. But the main point here is that I want to make it a level playing field, because if somebody has $11,999 using the 12,000 number here, then they can put in a very strong election platform. It's the one that has $800 there to expend. Then that's the differences there. So with respect there, I think just the 15 and the 10 is what we should be voting on. My big problem is that I don't think it's fair that the numbers, whether it's prior to the 12,000 or the 15,000, it's too high for the average Joe to compete fairly. So I'm prepared now just to let's do the resolution, and then we can vote.
Be it resolved that first reading be given to bylaw number 2604, being a bylaw of the RM of Springfield, whereas under section 93.2 of the Municipal Act, a municipality must pass a bylaw prescribing certain matters concerning campaign expenses and contributions in connection with municipal elections.
I'll pose the first question to those in support of 2604 amendments. That'll be, have we got a mover already in that? Yes, we already did. Then I'll do this again. Those which are support there, can I get a show of hands? That's Warren, Miller, Kaczynski, and Fuel. Those opposed, that's Therien, so passed. Then we have a consent agenda items going all the way from 9.1, 2, 3, and 4. If there's any discussions with regards to that, if we can do it by consent, is everybody in agreement with the consent portion of that? I see no opposition to that. Then if we could, have we got a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda? Could I get a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda for those 4 items? That's Kaczynski and Miller.
Whereas a consent agenda has been submitted consisting of 4 items, be it resolved that said consent agenda be received as information.
As read the resolution there, can I get a show of hands first? Those in support? That is unanimous and so carried. Then if we can go to new business, please. 10.1, that's a curbside refuse and recycling collection program. Mover and a seconder for 10.1, please. Therien and Warren.
Be it resolved that Council of the RM of Springfield authorize administration and the Water and Waste Department to extend the existing agreement with Mterra Environmental, the curbside waste and recycling collection program for the period of May 1st, 2026 to April 30th, 2027.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, Council? I see none. Then if I'll pose the question, those in support of collection program, show of hands. That is unanimous, so carried. Then 10.2, that's the arm of the West St. Paul Council Orientation Bootcamp. Mover, seconder, please. Therien and Fuel. Yeah, it's 10.2, but I thought I said that, but that's fine. 10.2.
Be it resolved that all of council be delegated to attend the Council Orientation Bootcamp November 18th to 20th, 2026 at Larders Golf and Country Club.
Thank you. With that being read, can I first get a show of hands, those in support? That is unanimous, so carried. Then we go to 10.3, please. That's the 2026 Capital Planning Region Fees, or WMR. Mover and a seconder for that, please.
Sorry, I don't have a resolution for this. This is just for discussion at this point and some options for council to consider going forward. So as you know, council had a resolution in front of them to pay the 2026 Capital Planning Region fees, and that was defeated. Since that time, I've received correspondence from both the province and WMR advising that our fees are past due and are still payable. So I did contact the province to confirm that council had opted out prior to the invoice being due and payable. However, their response was that the 2026 capital planning budget included the RM of Springfield as a member and is still required to pay that amount. So I think they also suggested we could get legal opinion, but I did not go that route because it is their legislation that they put out and they should be able to answer the question on whether or not they're required to be paid or not. So at this point, they've advised that it is still payable. We did receive a letter from the minister advising that he received council's opt-out resolution. However, the regulation change has not taken effect yet to make it official. And that requires amending the Planning Act to remove Springfield from the planning region. So at this point, we can continue to correspond with the province. If there's anything else council wants to contribute to that discussion, or the recommendation would be to put forward a notice of motion to reconsider this resolution at the April 7th council meeting.
Councillor Fuel and then Miller.
The question I have is it being prorated? You know, so we don't have the authority from the province yet. So I guess my question to the province is, can we prorate that bill till we get out? That'd be my question.
So I did ask that and they said there is no prorating option that was considered.
Councillor Miller.
Thanks again, Mayor. My suggestion would be, as I saw the ministerial correspondence to us from Minister Simard, that it's in process. So I would say let's hold off. I wouldn't want to pay this fee and then realize that we didn't have to pay this fee. The other question I would have is the other municipalities that did opt out, and there were a whole handful, as you know, have any of those paid their dues? In other words, are we jumping the gun and paying it when others are probably in the same pickle, to be honest?
Can I? So I've talked to the RM of McDonald, and yes, they have opted out, but they still had to pay, and they have paid.
They have or haven't?
They have.
Okay.
They have. When RM of Taché opted out, they had already paid their fees before they had discussed opting out. So my take on this is, if the province is forcing us to pay the fees, the full amount till December 2020, because it's for a whole year, or until they finally say that we are out with a freaking letter and what's a freaking with a letter and you know, saying that they are no longer changed the legislation, that we're no longer, you know, legislated to pay this money, then I'm sorry, somebody from this RM should be sitting at the table.
Yeah.
If we're still paying the fee, we should still be sitting there and finding out what's going on.
Thank you.
I just feel like they're taking our money. We don't know what's going on. Well, they're not doing anything, but right? These are questions for the province. Like, you're telling us that we have to pay, but we've opted out and now we're sitting on the sidelines, but you're making us pay our $18,000. So how is that fair to the residents, not knowing what they're working on? We're not going to see that until what, spring? We are spring. This is not spring outside, but when are we going to hear anything about anything? Right? I just, not that they're forcing us with this legislation to be there. Yes, we've opted out, but they're still forcing to take our money. That's a question for the province.
I agree. Deputy Mayor.
I would recommend, again, we defer and get legal counsel advice. And here's why. I've been an employer for 40 years, and I would never pay a bill if I didn't get the work done. So if I change my mind, sure, it's in their plan. I've had people that did make plans and still they didn't pay, or because the plan changed. So I don't get that. I think we need to make the province to come back to us and be more clear on this, because they're just saying, no, you need to pay it. Well, I'd like to see more of a reason why, especially when we're not going to be at the table for a whole year. And, you know, I'm okay with prorating it. That's not a problem. But to pay the whole year and know that we've opted out, just doesn't make business sense to me. Thank you.
Councillor Kaczynski?
Yes, I want to add to it that the province suggested that we can opt out. It was their decision. They let us out if we choose so. So why would they penalize now that we have to pay because we opted out? That doesn't make any sense. There was their responsibility that they said it's freedom and we can opt it out. So do we have any documentation like with the Bill 4 or whatever they passed that to allowing us to opt it out? Did they talk about the fees that we have to pay? They have to come clean with us, like, and other municipalities now suggested that we should really talk with them, Salt Creek, because Salt Creek opted out right on the beginning. I think they were the first one to opt it out and see if they paying fees. If they're not paying fees, then we should take probably same route. And like Councillor Phil suggested, yeah, we prorate it. If we have to just pay whatever to the day that, you know, we get the letter from minister, so we pay to that time. But then again, it's not clear, and because somebody from our council should be at the table there. So they even didn't advise us about that. So this whole process, it doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to agree with a bit of this and a bit of that there. The main thing is the bill is due. And I understand Deputy Mayor saying to get legal advice. I just think that's throwing money after for no purposes. Lawyers are expensive, and we got lawyers already working for us there on other matters there, and that's costing a lot of money to the taxpayers. The fact is that they say the bill is due. There's no prorating there, and other RMs have paid for it there. I'm not saying pay for it tonight there, but I am saying that we should be paying our bills. Now, do we still sit at the table? That is, I think so. If we're going to be paying for this, then we should be at that table. Somebody should be there to take notes and see what's going on there. We haven't been there since January, I guess. So I'm of the opinion that we should be there if we're going to be representing the RM, since we're still technically part of it until we get that letter. Then and this is a me moment there, that I should be there at the table for the RM.
Can we have a question to the province, like how long, why taking so long them to send us the letter that we out? Like, you know, it's already what, month and a half? Yeah.
That's why
3 months.
3 months. So yeah, one was January 22nd, I think. Yeah. So, you know.
So I think I shared the email that I did receive from the province with council, and it kind of says that they're within their own legal discussions about the next steps in drafting that regulation change. But I know they've passed regulation changes already, so it seems like they should know the process, but it's just a matter of timing. I think since us, I know of 2 for sure that have since opted out. So they're probably going to do one regulation change for everybody that has opted out since the last, probably like December of 2025 to today's date. So they're not going to continue to do one-off regulation changes. They're waiting probably for the bulk of them to make their decision. I think I did question us having to spend money on a legal opinion when they should be able to provide that information since they drafted the legislation. I did talk to a lawyer off record, free of charge, and got some advice. And they recommended drafting a very strong resolution. If you decide you want to prorate a portion or pay a portion and say we'll pay this amount until we receive our opt-out, and then we'll prorate it to that date when it's official. But kind of stressing the fact that the province is mindful of how they spend taxpayer money, and so does the Arm of Springfield Council. So, you know, paying fees when you're opting out and not sitting at the table isn't fair to your residents as well. So trying to word a resolution that kind of brings that point across the table and saying, we'll pay a portion now, a quarter, and then once we get the final opt-out date, we'll figure out what those fees to that date are, and that's the only amount that council's willing to pay.
Well, if you just pay to the date that we was in it, like till January 22nd,
Yeah, so
because that's the day that we said we don't want to be in it.
Yeah, but if we start going at the table there, then they're gonna say that,
Well, then we don't go to the table.
well, I'm just saying if the legal fees, if they say that we have to pay the entire thing there, and we're not at the table, then that's another kind of the layer of the onion there. But this is just a discussion there, and really good arguments, not arguments, but good discussion. I see you got, you,
when we first, this is so loud. When we first had this discussion, January 2023, we talked about WMR. I wasn't present. And then we had Ms. Freeman come here as a delegation and speak. And Andy, you asked her, what are these fees for? You did. You asked her, where are these fees going? What are they used for? And she said basically it was for the salaries of their consultants and everybody like that. So they've budgeted, honestly, they've taken the amount of 18 municipalities and said, this is the chunk of change that I can afford to, or the WMR can afford to get to pay this person, this consultant, that consultant, well, and myself, maybe, right? Because everybody needs a salary if that's their only job. So I think, so if we, you know, whatever we decide of how we're gonna write this resolution, that will be probably their comeback, right? Because we're basically taking away their salary. That's what we're doing. We're taking away their consultants to work on a plan, and we're taking away their salary. Maybe they need to downsize anyway, but.
I want to make statement yet that I heard that the Jennifer Freeman, it's no longer, she resigned her position, and the chair, Mr. Moore, resigned his position. So there are going to be big changes on WMR. So who knows if they're going to replace them, or maybe the WMR just going to fold on its own.
well,
with no support from the municipality.
It's not contiguous by any nature of the game there, and as far as my opinion there is a regional plan should be regional. If you have a half moon basically as a figurative way of describing the city with the holes in the middle and so on like that, and then there's a whole east part that's out because we got McDonald, Taché, and Springfield were the three big ones there for all the RMs. West St. Paul, East St. Paul are out there. Rosser, I believe, is out, or Rockwood, one of the two of them. I think Rockwood there. So it's a huge gap that's in there. St. Andrews and St. Clements there. So, but that's not up to us. That's them. That's up to them to do that there. I think this is. I don't think we're. I say if we defer this for next month, there to figure out what we're going to do, we'll get maybe some more answers there, and maybe we'll formulate a strong resolution there. Personally, I just think that we should just wait. Do we have somebody going to these meetings? I think that's the big decision, and I would think that we should. Something wrong? Oh. Well, then if everybody's in agreement for 10.3, just to defer it to the next council meeting, maybe we'll get some more answers.
So do you want to give notice of motion to reconsider so that if we have more information by April 7th,
7th, I
then you
think.
can formulate a stronger
Yeah.
resolution, or?
Does that make sense? So there, for April 7th, we'll look at it again. Then we'll have a resolution prepared if we choose. Yeah, sure.
So Melinda, you're giving notice of motion?
And what day was that? April 7th.
I don't think I had that on record. I think I was muted.
Okay, so I have Councillor
Putting the
Warren
motion
giving
in.
notice of motion to reconsider resolution 26027 at the April 7th council meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did we need a vote on that?
No,
Or
just noted in the minutes.
Okay. We'll just wait a few minutes here and see if we can get that up and running. You guys want to keep on going? You can share with Mark there, Andy? Okay. Why don't we go to 10.4, please? That's December 2025 financial statement there. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Tarian and Warren. Yes. Amram, can you come up and maybe answer those well, clarifications? Of course he can. He's an accountant.
Good evening, Mayor Pat. Good evening, councillors. I did not quite get all the questions being asked. I think what I picked up from Madam Nylen's delegation was about whether council should be the one to approve transfers to reserves. And I think she was making a request also that council should not approve this December financial statement. I assume maybe until some of the issues she raised are, I don't know, maybe say answers are provided for that. And as the CEO said, I wish she had sent her questions in, and I would have had specific answers. But I have the financial statements and I can explain the numbers. And I used to prepare notes also that accompany the financial statements. There are times that I've done that for council. I will apologize that I did not do that this time. Maybe that would have been helpful as well. But before I talked about some of the numbers, the financial statement we provided on Friday, we made an edit to it that affected just 2 items. So on the FR 005, and you can see what we have, they are highlighted, the numbers are highlighted in yellow so that people will know that those were the numbers affected where we made changes. That it affected the transfers to reserves. That is on FR 05. We can see the general reserve number was highlighted, and the gas tax, which is the Canada Community Building Fund, was highlighted. So the number, the financial statement that was uploaded on Friday, it was just half of the gas tax amount that was transferred during the year, and during the review process, we picked it up that it's not the entire amount, the 935,000. So we had recorded the second half. Are we all on the same page? We had recorded the second half of the payment as a receivable because we've not yet received it from the province. But because we have the letter from the province showing the amount that we're to receive in 2025, that is evidence enough to an auditor to say, okay, this RM will certainly receive this fund. So we have to record it as it was recorded as a receivable, but it wasn't transferred to the gas tax reserve. The transfer went into the general reserve. So we made that rectification. So, and if you go down to FRO 10, you will see also those two reserves are highlighted. The gas tax reserve increased. It's about $467,515, and then the general reserve decreased a bit. So I wanted to point that out first. In terms of the budget numbers and the actuals, from my understanding, a budget is a plan. A budget is not just a plan, it's a guide. It's a tool you can use to measure performance. I have never been trained that a budget must always be the same as the actuals. I've never been trained that way, and I never see it that way. In fact, any professional accountant will tell you there will always be variances. And we're trained that usually management could set a rule of thumb as to what variances will require investigation. It could be 10%, it could be 20%, depending on what management will deem fit for as a threshold, you know. So when the budget is set, it's a plan. The actuals may turn out to be close to budget, or they may turn out to be a little bit, or sometimes in some cases more than budget, like the development levies that Madam Nylen referenced to. These are things that occur. In terms of the reason why there was a surplus, it's not because of tax, increased taxes to residents, because the tax, it's fixed, it doesn't change. But we have user fees, we have services that RN provides that generate some income to the RN. We have things like added taxes, supplemental taxes, we have interest income. Some of these, as I mentioned in them, these are revenue lines where there are significant variances that increased revenue. So there is a lot of them on the revenue. And this one, you will see that on FRO 4, from the top of it, you will see the taxes added. There's a significant variance there. That is not something management controls. And we've talked about this in the past. We increased that budget. Before it was 300,000. I think last year, 2025 was the first year we increased it to 500,000. And the actual is above budget. And so that is something we've also, within the finance deal, we've talked about for the 2026 budget. The interest income, returns from investment also, there is a significant increase there. We can also see the planning and department permits revenue, where if you add up those lines, the building and plumbing permits, the Part 3 permit, the lot grade permit, is a significant variance also over $300,000. These are not taxes. the sale of service, almost all of those lines, there are, in other words, the actual revenues realized were more than what was budgeted for. So in terms of the transfers that we made, again, we were working to meet the deadline, and I've been in contact with the departments, municipal relations. We did not want a request for extension for the March 15 deadline. We wanted to submit this financial statement. So the transfers that we made were, and I will go to FRO 05. If you look at FRO 05 there, all the way the bottom of it, you can see the recreation and facility maintenance reserve. There is an additional transfer to it of about 250,000. So what happened here was we made that transfer because council had approved the request from Oakbank Arena for the skating rink, the $500,000 that council had approved. The way we had budgeted for it was that 250,000 was to be transferred in 2025, and then another 250,000 transferred into this reserve in 2026 to have that 500,000 for the Oakbank Arena. So the 2025 transfer was made. Now the other 250,000, the 250,000 2026, based on discussions with the Community Services Director, Sean, and after our meeting with council, we're working on the budget, trying to look at where we can reduce expenditures and all that. So it wasn't quite clear to me that, based on my discussion with Sean, that Oakbank Arena will carry on the project. The project will move on this year or even maybe next year. So I removed the 250,000 from the 2026 budget so that it will not impact the 2026 mill rate. And so when we're looking at our 2025 numbers, looking at, okay, we had some extra, we transferred the 250,000 into that reserve. So it will be as if the entire $500,000 was transferred in 2025, and we will not have to levy for it in 2026. It will not be part of the budget. So this is something that council had approved. Am I clear there? Does it make sense what I said? And the other transfer we made, the vehicle and equipment reserve, which is a reserve we've talked about with council, we made a transfer of 500,000 there above what was budgeted. This was also because of the lease, the graders that, the 4 graders that we leased. And the arrangement we've made was that the lease is going to run out by 2028, 2029. And a decision will be made as to whether we will purchase those graders that were leased outrightly or continue to lease. And based on Public Works, their own estimation, they would likely require an additional grader. So it was agreed that transfers should be made to the vehicle and equipment reserve above because what we've been budgeted was just to replace what we are using each year. So in 2024, the budget was about 1.57 million, and we put again that same amount back into the reserve. The same thing we did also even in 2025. But this was an extra transfer to provide for the purchase of those graders when we get to 2020. So each year we make a extra transfer into the vehicle and equipment reserve. So that was why we did this transfer into the vehicle and equipment reserve, this extra 500,000. And the rest of the transfers all went into general reserve. Yes, sir.
So the 1.5 million you're talking about, sorry.
The 1.5 million that you talk about for the graders, so that's proactive then, so that we have money in there. We're not looking in 2027, 2028 budget for this a new
Yes.
grader plus the cycling of the other four.
Yes, because in the lease agreement, we have the option to purchase the graders.
Yeah.
And so based on the numbers, we're to transfer about 350,000 every year extra into that reserve just for the graders. When we get to the end 2028, 29, the lease will run out, I think, March 2029.
Thank you.
Okay. So, and if I should speak to, I'm not sure if I've answered. Okay, she talked also about the accumulated surplus, the deficit recovery that was transferred. And when we were doing the deficit recovery, again, this was done. We were in touch with municipal relations, with the municipal services officers. They provided guidance as to how we will do it exactly. We took money from accumulated surplus, brought it into the operating statement, and then transfer it back again because they wanted to see the deficit recovery. We have the option of spending that money on whatever we chose, but it was agreed that we'll transfer it back again to accumulated surplus. So the money came in, it was 935,000, I think 143, and then it went back into accumulated surplus. If I should speak also to the delegation by Mr. Giesbrecht, I have read the document a bit. I personally, I do not believe that management should post that document on behalf of the RM. Because except if maybe Mr. Giesbrecht was hired by the RM as a consultant to do a work, to perform a work, because when the RM posts financial information, it will have to defend it. The consultant will be there to defend it. And I myself here that is hired as the finance manager of the RM will be here to provide answers when we post documents on the website. In his delegation, he said repeatedly that the RM, not sure exactly how he phrased it, but there have been strong financial foundation, he says. And we have emphasized this over and over, that the municipality is not in any financial difficulty. Some of the numbers that he showed, which are from the audited financial statements and which we've always also talked about, the outstanding debentures have been declining over time. The RM has a huge borrowing capacity. And what that tells is it shows that the RM has really been, if I choose the word conservative, it has not overextended itself in terms of borrowing. The projects, we've also mentioned this several times, the projects that the RM that are under consideration, borrowing is not the only financing option for the projects. And council and management, I believe we take our fiduciary responsibility very seriously. So to suggest that the municipality is in a difficult or will put its residents or itself in a difficult financial position in undertaking some of these projects, I think that statement, we've said it over and over, it's somehow misleading because we've provided the facts over and over and over and over and over, but still it is repeated. It is continually said the RM is in a financial difficulty. The RM is not in any financial difficulty. So the numbers it showed on that document is showing annual surplus, accumulated surplus. It's increasing because the RM is growing. And expenditures too have been increasing over the years because the RM is growing, and they will continue to increase because the RM will be growing. And the bench debts are on the decline. So that statement, it's not a factual statement at all. So I'm not sure, Mayor Pat, if there is questions for me from council.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Amran, for your explanations. I just have a couple of questions. One, I'm looking at your statements for the end of year 2025, December 31st, and it appears that total reserves, I just want you to have it on record that the total reserves that our municipality have are $32,827,000 and about $200. So about $33 million we have in reserves at the end of 2025. Is that
Yes,
accurate?
those are the reserves. If you add the regional utility reserve to it, I think it's more than that. But those are the ones for the other reserves, excluding the utility.
For sure. And I appreciate your words about the health, or as some call the unhealthy state of affairs. It's very subjective. I mean, each one of us here have a mortgage perhaps and have other debts and things like that. So what we take on personally, it's just a subjective comment. I mean, whether we take on more debt or less, that's again subjective. I think you're accurate that we can borrow up to is 120 million as a municipality or somewhere in that neighborhood. Is that accurate?
The number changes every year. So as we're preparing the 2026 budget now, for 2026, our borrowing capacity is 137, almost 138 million. It's increased.
And I would never be a strong advocate to borrow to the max. In fact, the lower end of it is I'm a fiscal conservative, and so I would be more comfortable at the bottom end. But each one of us have our own perspective, and I'm sure each resident has their perspective. So that's a debatable issue, right? My other question has to do with what Ms. Nylen had suggested, and I just want to be accurate before I vote on this, is it sounds to me that administration can transfer certain accounts amongst themselves without the purview or scrutiny and or the resolution of council. Is that an accurate statement, or am I reading that wrong?
I think the CAO maybe will answer this question. We've made transfers, and as I've said, the transfers we made are based on decisions that council have made. If council will get to the point where it says it must have a resolution before a transfer can be made, and that is something.
Yeah,
council...
so there's nothing specific under the Municipal Act that requires a resolution. I don't disagree that it was past practice to do that, and we would bring the report to council and you'd pass the resolution. But the way we do it now is we have those one-off discussions with council during our summary sheet discussions, when we're looking at capital budget, our 5-year. We show you what the reserve balances are. We know that we're going to deplete this reserve completely, before we're done using it. So those are the discussions that finance staff have with me after we meet with council and we decide where those transfers are going to help us in the long term.
And I truthfully believe that administration has to have some purview and some flexibility to make some decisions in discussion and obviously consultation with council, not indiscriminately, but you have to have some flexibility to operate the organization. So I'm not against that, but I think it's important, obviously, to make sure that that's transparent to us and that we're aware of those kinds of transactions that are happening or going to happen.
And Councillor Miller, if I can state again, and so like I've talked about the 2 transfers we made, apart from, because every other transfer, everything else goes into the general reserve. And I believe if council is making a decision about which project to fund, The general reserve is a reserve that is a little bit, management and council have leeway as to what it can be used for versus other reserves where funds are tied to a specific thing. We only made those 2 transfers that I talked about, which is based on what decisions the council have made about the grader, the leasing, and the Oakbank Arena, the skating rink. Those are the only 2.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amram. I just have to clarify there, not clarify, but make a point there. If that was a practice many years ago, 10, 20 years ago, things evolve there. So if we were to council to have a resolution for every time there's a transfer, then that's our job here is governance. Their administration, that's the job when it comes to finances. There, it all falls under our CEO, and with greatest respect, she's not an accountant. Amram's an accountant there, so but Amram reports to our CEO. So there is a delineation of duties here, and he's our expert when it comes to the numbers. So I guess I'll end that off there. If we can.
So please, Mayor Pat.
Yeah.
I just want to also state the financial statement that we're presenting now, the December financial statement. This is what is normally called the pre-PSAB, the financial statement before the public sector accounting standard entries go in. So Holly and I, what we've done this year was we set a cutoff at the end of February. We're not taking in any more bills that may come in that relates to 2025 because we wanted to meet this deadline. So all the entries for 2025, to the best of our knowledge, they've gone in. And once this financial statement is approved, it does not mean we're not doing any more entries into the financial statement. This is the financial statement that goes to the province before all our year-end entries go in, which will reflect on the audited financial statement, which also goes to the province. And these financial statements are audited, as council is aware, by a professional accountant who has the expertise to audit the financial statement and provide a professional opinion, which they've done every year. So to say that nothing should change again on the financial statement, this is pre-PSAB, nothing will change up to this point. But once this is signed, there are movements that will occur within which relates to accounting issues, and we are going to be making those entries. Yes, please.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you for that. So pre-SAP, I understand that. So when is the cutoff date for the 2025 bills that are obviously coming in March, right? That you're going to add into the account statement?
So the audited financial statement, it is June 30th.
Okay.
There was an email, in fact, that came, I think it was today, from the province, reminding municipalities that by June 30th is when we've not been able to achieve that in previous years. This year, the plan was to complete all this year end by March 31st, so we can send it to the auditors. It's a bit challenging when you have budgets and year end going through. So how does year end? So for me as a professional accountant, doing some of this work, it requires going through the standards. Now, I have had the experience of working in public practice and working as an accountant internal to an entity, so I know the difference. So when I worked in public practice, the standards, they are our bread and butter. Trainings all the time. So we are on top of them because we are the ones going to examine clients' financial statements. We need to, but when you're internal, you deal with the standards that are only relevant to the entity. So there are standards for private enterprise, standards for municipalities, standards for not-for-profit organizations, and public companies. So when I'm doing year-end stuff, there's a lot of reading that I do as well, making sure that I follow what the standard says, because another professional accountant is going to check my work when they're auditing it. So doing that with the budget process, because during the budget process, there's a lot of information coming, changes being made and all that. It takes time. So we're working on it. But June 30th is the deadline that the province set.
Thank you, Amram. Councillor Kaczynski.
Thank you. So I want to just make statement to the public maybe. Municipality said that we have a lot of ability to borrow the money, like $20 million. Somebody can answer what ability the taxpayers have to pay this amount if we can borrow. For instance, those two projects, what we going now, water treatment plant and rec center. So we get grants for those two projects. It's almost $52.5 million for this project. We get like $19 million in grants. So that means the taxpayers are on the hook for $33 million. From that, we're gonna borrow $12.5 million for rec center, and we're gonna borrow $8.8 million for. So now we're gonna have borrowing on top of that. So that all the money, $32 million, is taxpayers' money, plus borrowing, plus interest charges on it. So this is, I don't know, through interest charges, maybe gonna be half of that. So if we have $32 million plus 16, that's $48 million taxpayers are paying for these two projects. So that's the way we can calculate. And if people have ability to absorb all this spending what we have. It's nice to have all these facilities and you know, and maybe eventually somebody gonna pay for it. But that's gonna be long time and lucky if we're gonna recover all this money. They're gonna take long time, but taxpayers have to put this money right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amram. I'm not you.
Thank you very much, Amram. I appreciate you staying late there for this, and drive careful.
Thank you.
Okay, then if we're prepared, any other questions there from council before Amram leaves at all? I see none. Then if we can read the resolution for 10.4 December 2025 financial statement.
Be it resolved that the financial statement for December 2025 be approved as presented.
With that being read there, I'll pose a question. Those in support, the show of hands. That's Warren, Fuel, Tarian. Those opposed? Councillors Kaczynski and Miller is so passed. And if we go to 10.5, the council schedule there, can I get a mover and a seconder for 10.5, please? Warren and Tarian.
Be it resolved that the following change be approved to the council meeting schedule, Tuesday, June 9th, committee of the whole cancelled.
Okay, I see no questions there. If I can get a show of hands of those in support, the show of hands. That's unanimous, so carried. Then if we go to 10.6, award appropriations there, mover and a seconder, please. Tarian and Warren again. Did you put your hand up? Oh,
No, there was a flash. There was a flash across the caught my eye. It was a rabbit past the window.
Well, I don't think a rabbit can vote. Unless that was Daryl. You're running after it?
Ghost.
Okay.
So I'll just review the notes on this ward appropriation request. As you recall, Citizens on Patrol had come and requested money put towards reflective wristbands. Council had asked if they could look at increasing the number of wristbands to see if that could lower the cost. Originally, they were looking at purchasing 500, so they did put in a request for increasing that to 1,000. And so that reduced the per wristband cost, but then it increased the overall cost obviously to $1,460 plus tax. So they were wondering if council wanted to contribute to that extra. I think you provided $1,000 already. So it'd be about $130 from each council member to cover that extra cost if we want to go with the 1,000.
I'd be prepared for that. It's a better price, and like Deputy Mayor was saying, that we can have it here in the front, or do things with it with the extra stuff there, and it helps the our citizens there. So I think it's a great expenditure. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think again, an extra 500, we'll find that again, we'll have a purpose for them. Thank you.
Councillor Kaczynski?
Yeah, I hope everybody gonna wear it who's gonna receive it, and like especially in the winter, like those. I hope those wristbands are quite big so they can go over the glove, or they just fits on the armrest.
The wrist area.
So then they're gonna be covered by the glove or by the parka, and nobody gonna see it in the winter. And especially that's what should be done in the winter. I would say some kind of stripes on the body or something like that, because I don't know if that's gonna serve the purpose. You have long sleeves and.
I've seen them. It's not a heck of a lot, but at least it's something.
Yeah,
that's the main
I understand
thing.
that, but
yeah, especially for little kids there. Not that they should be out late in any case there, but it's better than not having anything.
Yeah, well, in the winter for 4:00 afternoon, it's not late, but it's already dark.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It doesn't get dark until the summer there, 10:30.
Yeah, my experience is they snap over the jacket also. I've seen them where they've snapped over the jacket, so they do work up on top of the jacket also. Thank you.
Well, yeah, well, we want to all help the residents, to prevent them from, bad things happen to our residents. I'm for it to, add $130 from.
Pretty cheap when it comes to the safety there. Okay, so we can read the resolution then if we're good with that.
Be it resolved that the following 2026 ward appropriation be approved. COPP $650 at $130 for each council member.
With that being read, show of hands for first. Those in support? That is unanimous, so carried. Then we're prepared to go to a closed meeting. That's item 11 there. Can I get a mover and a seconder for a closed meeting? Fuel and Warren, show of hands. Those in support? Unanimous, so carried. And we'll go to closed meeting at 7:51 p.m.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Thank you very much. We are coming back out of closed meeting at 8:12 p.m. Can I get a mover and a seconder to come out of closed meeting? Miller and Kaczynski. Show of hands. That is unanimous, so passed. And we'll go straight to adjournment at 8:12 or 8:13. Sorry. Thank you very much, and the meeting is over.
Recording stopped.